This is the first mini lecture for section 6.3 of the textbook. So now we're going to talk about multiplication and division of fractions. We can think of a product like 4 times 2/3 as repeated addition. So 4 times 2/3 is just 4 2/3. 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3, which is 8/3. So it's repeated addition, just like we talked about with whole numbers. But what about a product like 2/3 times 4? Okay, I can't do that in terms of repeated addition exactly. But remember that a fraction is an action. What does the 2/3 action do? It takes your unit, it divides it into 3 equal parts, physically or mentally, and then it selects 2 parts of that size. So if I have a loaf of bread, I imagine dividing it into 3 equal parts, and then I take the amount that would be represented by 2 of those parts. That action is the 2/3 action. So if I multiply by 2/3, that means performing the 2/3 action, which means that I just go through that process on whatever I'm multiplying by that. So for example, to multiply 2/3 times 4, I take the number 4, the whole thing, as a unit, so to speak, and then I divide it into 3 equal parts, and I select 2 of those parts. So I could do this using the area model. I'll just use squares. And in fact, let's draw number lines, like we might in an algebra class. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have these 4 units. Right now I'm going to think about this as just one piece. And I'm going to divide it into 3 equal parts and take 2 of those parts. So the easiest way to do that would be to divide it vertically like this, where this mark right here would be 2/3. And then I just extend those across the figure. Okay, and if I do 2/3 of this long rectangle, then I end up with this shaded region. So the question is, how much does this represent? What area is this? Well, if the basic unit here is the 1 by 1 square, then each square is divided up into 3 equal parts, so the denominator is going to be 3. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 of those units shaded. So, what's going on here? Well, let me move this 8/3 a little bit. The unit here, that's the unit square. There's 3 parts. And then there are 8 parts shaded. So it's 8/3. Okay, I can do the same thing to multiply 2 fractions. So for example, 2/3 times 3/5. The idea would be to take 3/5, an area of 3/5, divide that area into 3 equal parts, and then select 2 of those parts. Okay, so we'll do this much like we did that last one. Expand a bit. Okay, so you imagine working on a unit grid paper, like in algebra class. And let's see, 3/5. To draw that, I need to mark this horizontal axis out into fifths, 5 equal parts, something like that. There's 3/5. And then I'm going to divide the vertical axis into thirds. And there's 2/3. Okay, and I extend the tick marks across. And I can see on here right now, 3/5 of a unit, I'll shade it in really lightly. So I don't want the whole thing shaded in right now. But what I'm shading in right now is 3/5 of that unit square. Okay, then I perform the 2/3 action on that, which means divide that into 3 equal parts and shade 2. And so here's what I end up with. Okay, so the unit square is divided up into 15 parts. Okay, this unit square. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those shaded. So the answer here is 6/15. That's the product of those two. And I could put that in simplest form. It's not in simplest form right now, but let's not worry about that right now. Okay, let's do one more of these. Let's use the area model to illustrate the product 1 3/4 times 2 1/2. So we're going to do the same kind of thing. I just need to draw a larger area. Let's get this up a little bit. Okay, so let's draw our unit grid. Okay, remember, when we get done with these, the unit is the 1 by 1 square. That's what you're using to figure out the numerator and denominator. Okay, so 1 3/4. I need to divide the vertical axis into quarters. And right here is 1 3/4. Can just extend those across the diagram. And I'm multiplying that by 2 1/2, so I need to divide each of the horizontal intervals into 2 equal parts. Okay, now I shade in the area that represents the product. 1 3/4 times 2.5. So just shade in that whole area. Okay, so that's the product. So let's think about what is the answer. Well, the unit, which is the 1 by 1 square, that's divided into 8 equal parts. So the denominator is 8. For the numerator, I just need to count how many of those parts are shaded. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 7 by 5, that's 35. So I get 35 over 8. Or I could express that as, 4 and 3/8. So in all, what I have shaded here is equal to 4 squares plus 3/8 of a square.